okay? When the board decided Saturday night to seek a building-wide lead paint assessment, immediately there was a lot of employees, including the teachers and custodial staff, again, Lynn, Jason, and food service people that immediately went to work on this in case we got to this point. Tomorrow, if the board approves this, we've already secured trucks to start the move. We have personnel to help us. We also have staff to help us. In addition, we've already begun to install infrastructure yesterday and today at the middle school in order to provide the teachers with tools that they need to teach the students. For example, internet cable, telephone lines. We've also had developed plans in order to provide food service for the students and bring in infrastructure like freezers. We've also talked to our contractor that provides milk. So this plan is ready to be deployed tomorrow morning. The difficult part is going to be physically moving all of the equipment to facilitate the education of the students. For example, when you bring small kids from the elementary school over to the middle school, they require different sized desks. That's very important. We've also had staff who've developed supervision schedules for the students. We've also developed lunch schedules for the students. So we're fully prepared to deploy this plan. One of the biggest questions that we had was, where do we develop a pickup point for the kids in Lake? We feel that it's still safe enough to pick the students up on the lake and playground, provided we install a fence and we have enough personnel to supervise the students to keep them at least 100 to 150 feet away from the building until we can get this problem solved.
Do you want to speak to the drop-off?
Lynn, are you ready to talk about it a little bit? Richard. This is Lynn Jason. Lynn has been our transportation director for 4 or 5 years and has worked very hard to develop a contingency plan for transportation. Keep in mind, she developed a contingency plan for transportation over a year ago. And the reason why we did was because we were concerned that the condition of that building with the boilers could be a problem in the winter, since it is a 1948 boiler. Lynn?
Question, Dixie? You said them about pickup points and stuff.
But people would be concerned about where they would be dropping and picking up their kids at the Sparland building, like the little kids.
We discussed that today, and what we're going to do is we're going to have all of our staff that normally parks there in front of the school, they will all move to the west parking lot, so that will be completely open for parents in the front, and my buses will line up on the side like we always do, so they won't be in the way. So that's what we're looking at, is to keep that whole entire area clear. They can make their turnaround, and shouldn't be any problem.
Any other differences?
Differences is only going to be which students are going on which buses. I do have a meeting tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock with my drivers to go over that with them. I'd like to discuss it with them in more detail, make sure they're not seeing something that I have missed, and we'll go from there.
And how would parents find out if there was a difference for their kids?
The biggest difference is going to be the Lake and Town kids that have never been on a bus. That is going to be, like I said, that'll be the biggest change right there. When I tell all students that normally come to the middle school, we have them all there by 10 minutes to 8. First bus coming to Sparland should arrive at Lincoln at 8 o'clock. So if we have them gather them, we've got Carrie Shoup and Denise Wallace even and I today spent a lot of time working on supervision, making sure that we've got plenty of adults there to help them get on the correct buses. They will all have a copy of where everybody's supposed to go, and hopefully it will run very smoothly. It's going to be, first few days, like I said, you're putting a lot of kids on a bus that other than going to a field trip, have never been on a school bus. So,
Okay. And how, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, how do parents, especially in the town of Lincoln, how will they be informed as to, I mean, where they're supposed to, I mean, they'll go to the school, we know that now, but at what time they come back?
by the time they come back, all buses will leave from Sparland at 3:10, all the Lakin buses. We will load at both ends of the building, that way we can get them loaded quickly and get them back at the same time. If we're gonna be able to unload and load on the playground, what I've set up, we have the one opening at the very end, so we'll be doing one bus at a time. It won't be all 4 buses unloading. It'll be, very organized. We'll have to make sure one bus is unloaded, and then it will take off. Next one will pull up.
That's what they do.
Somewhat we do. We unload, when we come from Sparland, we unload at the same time. So we're gonna avoid that because we do have the one opening at the playground.
Thank you, Lynn.
And all you need-
Anybody else? Question, or do you have a question, please?
Next on the communication, or next on the transportation, but about all the communication there. In general, there's a lot to be desired about how we communicate from that branch. Websites that aren't always up to date, Facebook pages that, well, Facebook page, all calls that usually work, but not always. So there's a huge opportunity for folks to not find out the information that they need to find out. So we need to be incredibly diligent in making sure that each and every person that's affected by this has all the information. So I'd like to see a communication plan. How are we going to do this? I mean, throwing up one thing on websites, half the people don't even know what website to probably even go to. So that's something that I want to put in place on. How are we going to make sure everybody knows this?
Is there a problem with the all-call? I've heard different people say different things about it.
Lynn, can I ask you a question? I'm sorry.
No?
Barnett children that already get off at the pavilion, get on a different bus, will they stay on that bus, or are they going to have
The Barna
to?
bus, the K4 Barna bus.
You want to step up to speak to that, repeat or
Very big conflict. Florida students will get on at the pavilion like they have in the past. They'll all meet there with the 5-8 bus and the K4 bus meet together at the pavilion. They switch and get the kids that they need for their building. Mr. Hanson will still be driving the K4 bus. He will pick them up there at the pavilion and go straight to the elementary, or to the middle school.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If necessary, we will call personally every family in the school district and notify them of what the plan is.
Well, and they can always call, and there's going to be somebody at the school, so, where do I take my kid, where am I supposed to be? So, don't be afraid to do that. If we haven't got things worked out 100%.
My question was the prepay. How is the busing going to work?
Can we just move on and say that, if you want to do that later, Lisa?
Sure will.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to open the floor for public comment. Very funny. Okay, I'm getting the card. All right. Okay, we need to consider a recommendation from the superintendent of what it's basically what we've been talking about, but you put the motion to us, please.
My recommendation is that the students not be returned to Midland Elementary School for the remainder of the 2015-2016 school year. Also, that a construction fence with appropriate signage be rented and installed around Midland Elementary School to prevent children from accessing areas in the vicinity of the building's doors and windows. That the children in grade 5 be transferred to Midland High School and housed there in a wing of the building dedicated to that purpose. That children in grades 3K through 4 be transferred to Midland Middle School and housed in a wing of the building dedicated to that purpose. That the administration work with the school district's architect to modify a room at Midland High School to house children in grade pre-K in compliance with the Health Life Safety Code, and that the administration solicit a proposal to lease portable classrooms to house students in grades pre-K through 5 for further consideration by the Board of Education.
Okay. We will now open the floor to public comment. I have some people up here that are already submitted a sheet. Pursuant to Board Policy 2.230, we ask that you be brief, limit your comments to 5 minutes or less, and discuss only those topics on the agenda for this evening's meeting. If you hear a prior speaker address the same concerns you wish to express, then please simply report that your concerns were addressed by another speaker. Just come up and say that. And that way we will best be able to accommodate all who wish to address the board. All right. Have requests from Dave Cockrell. Going to then to Bridget and Mike. Oh, I'm sorry.
So Ms. Ski has done the recording before, correct? You've done this recording before with the lead paint?
Yeah.
Okay. And why was none of this recorded prior to this last time?
Looking at this building,
Yes.
I have not done extra sampling at that building prior to what I was there before. There was a lead dust white sampling event done and reported to the building in 2005, I believe. But there was no extra sampling.
So the asbestos wasn't tested either?
Oh, no, the asbestos is a separate issue because that is regulated by the state of Illinois. There is a management plan in effect for the building, been in effect since 1989. So there has been asbestos inspections done. You're required by law to have a licensed asbestos inspector come in every 3 years to assess the material of the building. And you also have to do a 6-month surveillance report on the asbestos. We do not do the abatement.
Project management of it?
We oversee any abatement that is done, if the district hires us to do so. The abatement is done by a third party.
So that's the next question. Why does the architect go for a Chicago suburb abatement company versus somebody locally? Springfield, Peoria, Bloomington, something like that. Chicago rates, I have to assume, are much higher than something locally.
I'm not the abatement company, I didn't.
We're talking for the lab.
For the assessments, for whoever we talk to, or you talk to get the,
M&O's out of Peoria.
okay, they're not listed on Peoria, they're listed on Hazel Crest.
They have an office, Midland has an office in Hazel Crest, they have an office in Peoria, also in, yeah. And they also have a office down in the eastern Illinois area.
Okay, so on Saturday, Tiana alluded to the fact that you come and do this testing so often that the maintenance crew knew you by your first name.
I'm not just a lead assessor, I'm also an asbestos inspector. I've been out and I've done air quality testing for mold in the building in 2014, was the last time I was out and did air quality testing. And that report is, the school has those reports. And I also do the asbestos inspection. I mean, so that's how, I deal with this work with the district for many years.
So when you walk through the school, you never notice the paint prior to this inspection.
I don't come through and address, if I'm hired to come in and address the asbestos, I'm there to do my asbestos inspection. Lead is not required in the state of Illinois to be tested.
And you did the white testing on windowsills, floors, everything else, but as Ralph mentioned, what about all the furniture?
The furniture, where I did my testing and how I based that on, was because in each room, I tested every component in there, whether it was a windowsill, a wall, a radiator, along those lines. If it was negative, I wanted to see where the dust was, if the dust was coming in from the outside. If you have no lead in that room, the most obvious way in would be either the doorway coming into the floor or a windowsill. So if you look at the report, there were random testing, some done on a floor area here, some done on a windowsill. The furniture has not, there was no dust done on furniture.
So there's also 2 board members not present. I find that peculiar.
Brian Weber is at his job. He's in North Carolina or South Carolina. And Tiana is on a vacation trip that was planned a long time ago, and with their, yes, with their husband.
Okay.
Yes, they did. They did the work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Richard and Mike Gassant.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Mike Gabbard. I've got a few questions for Ideal Environmental first. I know Ideal does great testing work. I've dealt with it myself in the past. The question I had though was, did you do the lead testing over at the middle school also? It was just done at that one, the one school?
The elementary school, yes.
Okay, because what we had heard was that they were doing the testing at the middle school and at the grade school. And what we've seen on the Facebook page is that they went through and they were really cleaning and painting, doing all this over at the middle school, preparing actually for the bad results to come in from the lead testing. And you're saying this was the first time lead testing had ever been done in the grade school?
With an XRF machine, correct.
Okay. Were the levels at a high-risk level? They were above 1%?
Anything that I reported as a hazard was deemed a hazard. Things that I read off, it's not all the lead that was in that building. That's just what was being in deteriorated shape. You do have other areas in that building that have lead-based paint.
But, you know, my biggest question is really due diligence being done in all these schools? And you hear life safety, safety of our kids, but it seems like it's this one school that's being pinpointed, and I think it's being pinpointed, and basically the school's shut down. No one's ever going back in that school, and that's why really the importance of the vote coming up is so important, to vote to build a new school. This is a transition stage, is what they're doing, to show this can work, just shutting down the school, having two schools, so we'll never have a school in Lincoln ever again. It's not going to work.
May I ask you please to address only things that were talked about tonight?
Okay.
Not referendum or vote.
You brought up you have a 1948 boiler. Does that 1948 boiler have asbestos encasements, asbestos fire grid? Has it been tested?
Without looking at the actual management plan, I do not know offhand, but I do know that the building has been inspected for asbestos, and that plan is available at the school. I don't have it in front of me now, but without researching and looking at it, I see so many buildings every year, I can't tell you that yes, for sure it does, or no, it doesn't.
But generally,
it's
both
one of
those
those.
1948 boilers have asbestos fire grid, they have asbestos encasements, and there's a lot of asbestos everywhere. How much asbestos is in that school? How much is that made?
I can say that there is still asbestos in the building. I am aware that there is still asbestos in the building. As to list out exactly everything, what is asbestos and what is not, I don't have that information in front of me, but I do know that there is still asbestos in the building.
So we're moving the kids into a building that's still filled with asbestos. It gets a 3-year report, but the 3-year report is basically, you guys go in, you ask maintenance, have you guys touched any of this? Has anything been done? Have you done any remodeling, correct? You kind of look things over, but you don't really do any testing unless you're being paid for testing, right?
A 3-year inspection report as required by the AERA rules and regulations of the EPA states that a licensed inspector will come in, you review the management plan, look at the condition of material that you viewed 3 years prior, or whoever the inspector was reviewed that 3 years prior. You find out if they've done any abatement projects, because not all, just because we work with the district doesn't mean we do their abatement.
Right.
Or their things, and we come into new districts all the time. So a 3-year inspection, you come in, you review the last 3 years, you look at the different things, and we have to know also the condition of the material.
Right, and see if it's become friable over that pump.
Yes, if you review the last 3 years, it'll tell you if you have asbestos on there, the condition of it, any recommendations, if we recommend going in, procedures need to be done, if we
Now,
recommend
doesn't
things
this
done.
make you wonder though yourself? you know, being an inspector, that they were so concerned about the lead in the paint. Probably in that building too, you know, they didn't ask you to test that. So we don't know whether it's got lead, but it may have more lead
You have 30 seconds.
than the other. But it's very important to know.
Yes, there may, I have not tested it in the other building.
You haven't tested the other building, but they were going through there, they were scraping, they were painting, they were cleaning, preparing to move your kids to that school. But it's probably just as full of lead paint as the building they're going to shut down. The scare tactic to get our kids out of there, to show you that two schools will work.
I'm sorry.
Has the fire marshal.
Time's up, sir.
Let him speak, let him speak.
Has the fire marshal approved your plan? Has the state fire marshal approved your plan to move this many kids into that building?
We're working with the ROE on the plan.
But that's not state fire marshal.
No.
That's life safety.
That's what this meeting's
Are you
about, give
licensed?
us answers.
Life and safety. Okay.
We have some other people that would like to speak. Thank you. Summer?
Summer Traber at the store. Okay, I know, I used to be a Richmond. Okay, first of all, do you not do a walkthrough in the building like before? You know the ROE's coming. Why was a walkthrough not done to see, obviously paint's been chipping, so there was no walkthrough done in the fall? Why? You knew the ROE's coming. We knew we had these problems to fix. Why was it not done?
I think they were.
We provide maintenance in those buildings every year. We had one
Apparently
person
not.
working there all summer painting. It's a 1902 building, and it gets to be like 95 degrees in there in the summer, which makes it expand and contract. And then some areas they'll paint, and then 6 months later it'll start peeling, and they'll paint it again. The building,
I get that.
the building needs to be demolished. And whatever the community decides, this has nothing to do with the referendum. Nothing.
I'm not even talking
I
about.
I know that, and I don't mean to be disrespectful. It really doesn't.
I'm not, okay, and I'm talking about the kids moving, you know, and you know, since you're so knowledgeable, our architect here, the Lincoln Grade School, I just don't understand, you know, you're saying it's gonna cost this much money to do that. Are you knowledgeable about the kids? I'm an educator, and this is what I see. If we can fix the problem, I know we want to get these kids back in school. Yes, I know. But do you realize these young kids, you're going to get them back into the school over in Sparland. You're going to have these poor teachers. I just admire you so much to have to move these kids. Okay? Because you're going to have behavior problems with some of these children. They have anxiety. Okay, they're going to go there. I'm fortunate my son, who does have anxiety, has an older sibling at the middle school. So he won't have that because he knows he has someone there. My children ride a bus. You're going to have kids that's never ridden a bus. There's extra anxiety, not to mention new surroundings. You know, what about gym time? I'm really big on recess and gym time. What are you going to do about the Sparland? I mean, you can't let those kids go. They're 17 right there. Are they going to go? What are you going to do? They do need a break. They're kids. I don't understand. Gym time, I mean, the traffic. You're going to have parents going there. Are you going to have a light flashing saying this is where you turn, just so people are aware there's going to be extra traffic to go into Sparland? Those are just some concerns I have. And Lynn, great job on the bus, and I really appreciate that. I mean, you guys have worked hard. I appreciate all the hard work that you guys have put in to try to make this work. But there are things we need to look at for the kids. It is for the safety of the kids. Is this safe to move those kids there? When there's other factors, they have to adjust. When you start a school year, it takes at least a month just to get a partial routine established with these kids. Okay? And then we're moving on to start all over. So I do have concerns about that. I have a third grader that's going to go over there. So that's my concern, and I commend you teachers, and I appreciate the board looking into this, and I know you guys are trying hard because you want to get these kids back in school. But I strongly I have these concerns, and I hope you think this through. If we can, by any chance, fix this, we only need the school for another year. I know this grade school is going to be tore down. I'm not saying save it, because you're not going to be able to. We need another year in the rest of the school year with this grade school. If we can fix it, we need to do this, just to get these kids through. Because a new surrounding for them right now, their education's done for the rest of the school year anyway when you move them back. Because they're just going to be looking around. It is. How are they going to function over there?
Summer, I sympathize with you. I got 2 boys that are going to be subject to this. I really do. And believe me, this board struggled with this. We don't have any other place to house these children. The only place we have is in a building that's dangerous, and we can't put them in there. I don't know what else to tell you.
Well, I'm just saying it's dangerous because, I mean, and I understand the paint stuff, but this paint just didn't happen over the summer, Rolf, you know that.
That building has been dangerous for years. It has 2 wooden staircases.
The ceiling fell in when I was in 4th grade and it's lasted this long. I mean, I understand that, but all this other stuff, I mean, I'm just asking, think about the kids, because you guys are all about the safety of the kids and stuff. Look at their behaviors and how they're going to feel too. That's all I'm asking.
Roxanne Dorsey.
I just have a few things, but I would like to say this wasn't on there and I'm not going to discuss it, but you had asked the first gentleman to stop talking about the referendum because it wasn't brought up tonight. Actually, one of your board members brought it up during your discussion, and I think you can play back any tape. So he was dismissed and told not to talk about it, and it was brought up. That was inappropriate. So one of the things that I had on there was the busing. Are the bus times going to change for the kids in Sparland and Varna as well because of the additional pickup in Lakin? Okay, but you're going to be picking up all kids and doing bus transfers there and things. Isn't that going to add time to adjust bus times? Okay. Snow on the playground, has that been thought about? We're in the middle of winter, cold, snow. You're going to have all these kids out on a playground instead of meeting at a building for a pickup location where they can be warm during the winter months, since we're trying to get back in Tuesday. Removal of the stuff from the grade school that you're going to be putting now in the high school and into Sparland into the middle school. Who is going to be responsible for cleaning the bottom of their feet, since that gets tracked in and out when they're moving the equipment? And who's going to be responsible for cleaning the equipment so that we're not bringing stuff with the dust of the lead to the other 2 schools and now endangering the entire district regardless of the age of the students or the staff members? Has anybody thought about that? Who's properly doing that? Okay, so we're changing shoes and stuff. The other thing then is the notifications. You said you have to, you'll call everybody, and then somebody else made a comment, oh, but they can call to ask. But not everybody in the district is here tonight. Not everybody in the district has a phone. Not everybody in the district has the internet. So it is your responsibility, not ours, to notify everybody your all-call does not. So those are my points that I had, but you also made a statement that this has been dangerous for years. Why wasn't it addressed prior?
Exactly.
I have a couple here, I don't know who they are. Let me get the people that have signed something that on this desk. Jolene Hawk. H-A-U-K or H-A-U-H?
My question is basically on the annual testing. You say that the regional Board of Education, I'll call it, is supposed to annually inspect all schools, correct? Correct? So if this school had been inspected or done last year, the year before, are these reports available to the public?
They're available at your district office.
The inspection, each year we walk through each building. We work to walk the buildings when students are in session so that we have a clear look at egress and patterns of students. And that's where January 15th comes from.
So basically, these annual inspections are just a walkthrough. There's no real testing or, especially in schools such as this, that was built in 19.
You'll see there's a checklist of items that are looked at for the safety of children. And those items are what we look at as we walk through each classroom, each space in the building.
And none of these items came up prior to this year.
As of July 1st, as of July 1st, the region I previously served, LaSalle, joined Marshall counties. This is the first inspection, the first time I've walked through all three buildings. And so the inspection is at that time frame when you walk the building. That's the information that I'm able to look at and make my report off.
And this is done through all the schools?
Correct.
Including this one in Sparta. There are no issues at Sparta at this time?
A report has been presented to the school, and that's available to be seen, of issues of concern that are to be able to be remedied. They were not at the extent of the issues that I noticed at Lake.
So all of these reports, I can just contact the district office and I can get copies?
You are correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Someone can refer to breakfast? Where's that? Question about breakfast?
Hi, I'm Kendra Cookson, and I was just wondering, I know some parents rely on the school for breakfast. Are the Lakin kids going to arrive at the school in time to eat breakfast and still be in class on time? Okay, that's all, thank you.
Yes, the answer is yes. Rich Granstart?
I just have three questions rather than statements. Soil testing was brought up earlier that the soil is contaminated with lead. Can you comment on when the project's complete, do you retest the soil, and do we have any idea how long it will take for that soil to be uncontaminated?
Basically, part of the removal process is they're going to take the contaminated soil off, and in an instance, for the abatement, based on the level that you have, there will be additional financing coming out.
Does the soil have to pass over a time period that you tested, you come back 6 months later? A year, 2 years, 3 years?
Based on the amount of what the lead results were in the soil, determines if abatement is required or just an interim control where they can put mulch down is needed. So if an abatement option is done, they will remove the soil, retest it, pave over it, something along those lines there so that you no longer have contact with that. The other options that are acceptable will be interim controls by the, state of Illinois, the EPA, and HUD would be to cover that material so that it's not playing in the soil, the contaminated soil. So you have two options, either you can completely remove it, or you can cover it up so it's no longer a hazard, and then it still has to be, it's the same thing as the paint on the wall, it has to be reevaluated.
So is there 100% insurance once the project is complete that soil is not contaminated?
You do once they're done with the complete outside, we will take additional soil samples to show that the levels are below what are required for
Okay,
lead
so
standards.
within that protocol, what's the time? You can have no contamination for 6 months, you can come back a year, I don't know.
It depends on what they do with the outside. Okay, what's causing the soil to be contaminated is the paint that's falling off the buildings. I mean, that's what's causing the soil to be contaminated. because there are visible, if you walk around the building, there are visible paint chips around the building. That makes sense. So once that source is eliminated and you remove the top 3 inches of soil, you retest that that soil is not contaminated, you pass, and that the source that contaminated is removed, then your soil is fine. If you don't stabilize it outside, if you just do an arm control on the soil and just cover it, it has to be reevaluated again at minimum once a year, maximum. Then depending on hazards, things along, if a storm comes through, if a pipe breaks and somebody has to dig up something underground. Each individual occurrence that could happen could affect how often you need to.
So I'll move on to my second question was about the spores. I have a son who has respiratory issues, and we really haven't addressed tonight the spore issue very much. And I'm wondering, is there a plan of action for addressing the concerns that cause those spores to be in the air for, I know there's been talk of the flat ceilings, moisture, but I really haven't heard much of, we could fix all the lead, but then we still have a spore problem. I'm just wondering if that's been addressed.
We put recommendations on there that the first thing you have to do is you have to correct your water source. If you don't correct your water source, the mold itself isn't going to stop growing because that's what it needs. So once the water source is corrected, then it needs to be cleaned with a fungicide or microbial detergent along those lines. Anything that cannot be cleaned, like there's some ceiling tiles in there that are very porous, those will need to be removed, things along those lines. So the first step would be to completely eliminate the water source that's causing the mold.
When you say water source, would you, like a leaky ceiling, is that what you're considered by definition a water source?
I'm not a building engineer or anything, but when I was there and I did the sampling for it, there is a water leak coming from the ceiling at that point, so that water source needs to be corrected. You can come in and you can clean, but if you don't correct the water source.
So structure.
It's going to continue.
And the last question, if you could just address, there's concerns and risk factors for different age groups for lead. Can you comment on the different risk factors for different age groups? In other words, is a 6-year-old at more danger or less danger than, say, a 16-year-old?
I can't comment on that because I'm not a medical profession. One thing that I can say is you're more likely for a 6-year-old to pick something up and put it in their mouth versus a 16-year-old.
Okay, thank you.
Dorsey?
I just wanted to talk about the lead dust, and I expressed my concern at the last board meeting concerning the lead dust and the health and well-being of the students there in the building. And lead dust is a very serious matter. Lead can be ingested, inhaled, and absorbed through the skin. So where this lead dust is residing in the school, both on the items and other places, the kids were exposed to it. And I would like just to, at this time, I would like to commend the board for doing the entire inspection of the school, a complete assessment, and truly finding out exactly where we were and taking appropriate actions. I know a lot of time and effort and work's been going on by the board, the administration, the teachers, and everybody's involved. And I really appreciate it. Thank you on behalf of the students of Midland School District.
Dennis Gwynn?
Hi, I'm Dennis Glenn. I represent 3 students that go to this school, Landon, Dylan, and Ellie Mae. During this transition from one school to the next, I have a 4-year-old daughter here and 2 boys at the middle school. Have you guys contacted first responders yet in case in the event of emergencies, tornado drills, fire drills, how to get the students in and out? Are you going to have tornado drills, fire drills as soon as you get there with our students, our children? They're going to a school, they've never been in this building, they have no clue where they're going. Same here with the high school, I mean, with the extra added students in middle school, can you handle safely in the event of a tornado drill? Do all the students have a safe place in that school? Has that been thought of?
We discussed it.
There's going to be a funding action. The second thing is with Ideal sitting here, before my boys go to that school, and I'm sure with every other parent in here, you're going to test that school first, right? All right, well, my kids ain't going in until it's tested.
Two items, if I can quickly address that. I really appreciate your comments regarding the safety of the drills. And I will assure you, with safety planning, as kids enter, that's number one. Where are we going to go in the event of an emergency? I see we have responders here today, and there's discussion about travel patterns. As I've worked through some similar situations, it's best when everybody works together. And your comments and the feedback from the community is huge to work together to make sure it's a safe place for kids.
I agree. That's why we should test the building before our kids go there.
So the second question, and I appreciate you bringing that up, as I've walked through, and I know there's comments about individuals painting and not painting, my initial visit on January 15th, where I saw paint in a position that's, I asked for testing, was in Lakin. I did not see that in the other buildings, and I walked all the buildings and all the rooms. And I saw a lot of faces I see here again today, because what you talk about is the concern of our office, and I understand what you're saying.
I agree with what you're saying. I live in a house that's 200 years old. I had the lead problem paint. So everything that you're talking about, I've already went through and remediated my house. Okay? My son did have lead poisoning when he was 2 years old. It is a very serious issue. So what I'm saying is you may not see the cracked paint, but what about the outside of that building? That building's been there a long time. So if you don't have to look at the paint on the walls or in the windowsills, what does it hurt to go in and take some dust samples just to make sure that we're not moving our children from one environment to maybe even in a worse environment? It's a test. It's a test that could save all of our kids a lot of health problems.
Well, and aren't they supposed to test before they spray the paint? They put on fresh paint. Did they do their lead sample? Did they do the lead test? Maintenance people are supposed to do a lead test. You're supposed to have somebody that's your lead guy, you know, and do they have that on file? The lead test they did before they did the fresh new paint in the middle school here.
And so your concern is certainly something the board could address. And again, I appreciate
I'm not trying to cause problems, like I said. I appreciate it. It's a simple test. It can be done. If you're saying the kids can be there by Tuesday, that test result can be back by Tuesday.
Thank you. Ann?
I was just wondering, while we had the expert here, maybe we're gonna talk about this before we move. What about the rugs with the, like the kindergarten, first grade? Do they need to clean them first? That was just my thought, was with the rugs.
We don't do it. I did do dust samples on floors as well, not just windowsills in rooms that had no lead-based paint. And the only areas that came back with lead on the flooring were the ones that were addressed as a hazard in the report. Was every rug in every room and every square inch of a rug tested? No.
No. But do they need to be cleaned before they move everything over? Okay, that was just my thought when we were, that's all.
Lisa? Weber?
Lisa Weber, I have 3 kids and I watch kids, so my concern is the preschool busing. Are you going to be picking them up household, or do we take them to the grade school, or do we have to take them to wherever we decide to put preschool? Even for afternoon, so will times change then for busing? Okay. pickup would be, okay, so that will go out and then I'll call and all that as well to everybody, because I don't have a preschooler myself, but I watch them, so to get that information, because normally my all calls are if Zach's at the high school or Brad's at the middle school. It's not, I don't get anything for the elementary school. So, okay, that's all I had.
I can't read the name, but it says lead and dirt, cost of mitigation, Lincoln children in rain or snow. Is that, anybody? Where'd she go?
My name is Bethany Kapachek. I watch children, and I have 2 nephews that go to the grade school. And I had some questions in regards to, first I'm going to address the ones that I had written down, and Mrs. Dorsey already had spoken about it. Do you know if the Lakin children, when they ride the bus to school, if it is raining, snow, or below zero weather, what they will be able to do? Because it's Varna has a pavilion. Sparling goes directly to the school. So what will happen with those Lakin children in the elements?
We can't hear you.
Currently, the Sparling students, we've got a couple spots in town where they meet